So the next thing we're going to do is bring up Kari Lynn Morgan, who is going to help us with asking for what I need and being connected and having good, helpful conversations with other people. And of course, in the case of my community, it's even when your health interrupts your plans. So, so Kari Lynn, please come on and tell us a little bit more about how you got started in this, if that
Hi,
seems
Julie-ann.
relevant, or just how it applies today.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So thank you for having me here. I am a relationship and communication coach. I help people remember how to talk to each other when they've forgotten basic, simple, easy stuff. Um, I do work mostly with couples, but I work with, adults, adult children and their families, their parents. I'll work with coworkers, I work with friends, anybody where they just found that they're stuck in their communication. Maybe they're having the same arguments over and over and over again, and it's just not going anywhere. And sometimes this happens for years with people, particularly in couples. We get into our daily routine, we get into a communication rut, really. We
Mhm.
start to assume we know what the other person's going to say. That's a big one.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation so many times. I know what they're going to say. So I just help people like get out of that. Maybe what they've said or going to say is different, but we tend to not want to hear it because, again, we are habitual creatures. We like what we think we know already. So, um,
Yeah. Well, and then when we get into a situation with a significant health crisis, now you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what to say, and you're stuck by
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is so I will tell your viewers, you know this, Julie-ann. So we picked this conversation to have, well, a month ago or so. And since then, um, what has happened for me is that the day that this summit started, I had surgery on my foot. And so I am not supposed to be walking for 2 weeks. I am a person. I have 30 chickens and 6 ducks and 2 bunnies and a dog and all kinds of things and all kinds of land. Not walking, I would say is not an option,
Mhm.
but it has to be an option here. If I want to take care of myself, if I want to actually heal, it has to be an option. So, this has come up for me very really, like right now. Um, so a lesson that I've had to learn over and over again is, how do I ask for help? How do I trust other people to do the things? And in that, I have to first start with, well, what's getting in the way of it? So I want to talk a little bit at first, let's talk about it, because I think so many people have a problem asking for help. Whether it's a
Mhm.
one-time thing, whether you're in a chronic health situation, um, it's just really difficult for us to ask for help. So I I was thinking about this, and I wanted to ask, Julie-ann, for you, what's one of the reasons that makes it hard for you to ask for help? Like, what's going through your head when you don't want to ask for help?
Um, well, a lot of things.
Mhm.
Um, I I don't want them to tell me no, but I also don't want them to tell me yes and
Mm,
have it be like a huge thing.
mm,
Like, maybe this is confessing something that is awkward, but I sort of feel like, I try to be a good person and do things for other people. And so it's probably okay to ask for a few little favors here and there, but I'm afraid to ask for a big favor and not even know it.
Mhm.
And then what if I need another favor tomorrow?
Right, right. Like it's too much. We're asking for
Hmm.
too much. I might
Yeah,
overburden the other person,
exactly.
you know. Yeah. Um, I might like put them out. That's a phrase my mom would use. It's maybe a Southern phrase. You're going to put them out. Um, and yeah, that's a really big one, I think, for a lot of people is I'm going to overburden the people that I'm asking. They which is really funny because what we're actually saying in those moments often is we don't think they can handle us or our needs.
Oh.
That's one thing I've learned from me, especially, was like when I don't ask for particularly something big,
Mhm.
my story is either they can't handle it, they can't do it as well as I can. Um,
Mhm.
they'll get mad at me.
Yeah.
They'll make it a big deal, and then I have to deal with all of their whatever, some huffiness around it. I mean, this happens. So a really pertinent example. So like I said, I have 30 chickens, and I have this routine in the morning and at night around how they're taken care of, how they're fed, the order that things are done in the morning. Chickens are very much creatures of habit. They don't
Mm.
like it when things are done differently. They have very small brains, so they want to know what to expect. Um, and and so it's funny because one of my daughters is here visiting me right now, and she's very comfortable with animals. So to ask her to do feed and put away the chickens is not that big of a deal to me
Mm.
because I have this belief in her that she's competent to do it.
Mm. Mhm.
That's my story. She's competent to do it. I don't know if it's really, really true or not. But when I ask my partner to do it, it's a
Mm.
whole different thing because I have a belief that he can't do it. And so I make it so much of a bigger deal to
Mm.
ask him than to ask my daughter.
Mm.
And it's really funny because he's totally a competent adult. Like he can
Sure.
do it. It maybe requires a little bit different. Um, sorry, someone just walked in. It maybe requires a little bit different instruction, maybe some more detail to it, maybe some
Mhm.
more explanation. But that's not the thing that frustrates me. What frustrates me is my own thought about this person that's willing to do something for me
Mhm.
and whether or not I think they can, which is really kind of ridiculous to me. Like I'm doing it. So, I mean, I want to say this just as kind of the groundwork for when we're asking for something that we need. Sometimes the first thing we need to do is get out of our own head about
Mm.
what people are capable and willing to do for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, so because when we can do that, when we can get that out of our head, then we can actually have conversations with them about what they want to do and what they are willing to do.
Aha. Okay.
But if we start that conversation with the belief that they can't do it, then we
Mhm.
can't even have that conversation.
Yeah.
So this is the type of things that we have to work with when we're dealing with either a chronic or a sudden injury or illness. And when we're talking about, okay, what do we need? Who can help us? What's going to happen? How is everything going to get done? Sometimes the first thing we have to do is change our mindset around who and how people can actually help us. Because I think that gets in the way most of the time. We stop it before people can even get a chance to help us. We stop them from doing it. So I just want to sit with that for a moment, and let your listeners sit with that, because most people don't think of that. And I think a lot of it is because, when we're in a vulnerable place, like, we have to trust people in a different way.
Yeah.
And to me, trusting people is actually an action. It takes a mind shift. It takes some thinking differently. Again, like, okay, this person is competent. Okay, this person does want to help me. They say they want to help me, so I'm going to be vulnerable and accept that what they're saying is true. So now, how can we have the conversation about what the best way for this person to help me is?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that sounds good. Let's
so
have that
so then we
conversation.
move into, so how do you have that conversation?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I think Kari mentioned this yesterday, in her speaking. She was talking about when she had a moment, and people were calling her up and saying, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Can I do anything? And when you're in, this vulnerable state of illness or injury, when someone asks that kind of question, it can really feel like, oh my gosh, here's another thing I have to take care of by telling them what I need. Right?
Another thing I'm supposed to know. I
Right.
don't know.
Exactly. So, in this kind of lesson, like, people aren't going to stop doing that. It's just, it's in with good intention that they ask this thing. But how do you respond when you do that? Like, what do you usually say, if someone says that and you're in this place of vulnerability, and someone says, what can I do to help? Or I'll do anything to help. What do you need? What do you usually say there?
I think it's, I don't know. I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a really good start, actually.
Oh, good.
Do you know why that's a do you know why that's a really do you know why that's a really good start?
No. Why?
Because it's honest. It's
Okay.
honest. It's honest. It's just, I don't know. Like, that is the first part, really. Because that's so much better than sitting here trying to make up something for someone to do.
Okay.
I had this the other day, honestly, with my surgery. Someone said, I'm sorry that you're in pain. If there's anything I can do to support your recovery, let me know. And I was like, ugh. And she's a reflexologist. And so there's probably a lot that she could do to help me. But I sat with that for about 10 minutes and spent a lot of energy coming out of surgery being like, oh, I know I'm supposed to practice asking for what I need. I know I'm supposed to practice asking for help. here's somebody offering, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I ask for her? And then I finally just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to sit here and tell her, I don't know. Thank you very much. I'll get back to you. It's exactly what I said. And when I said that, because it came from a place of letting go, of taking responsibility for her, it really relaxed me a lot. Now, 3 days later, I can sit here and say, wow, you know what? I think I actually really do want a session from her. I couldn't ask for that before. I needed to not. If she had offered it, I would have been like, yeah, great. Of course. Yes, I would love a reflexology session from you. But she didn't offer it. So I'm not going to take that on until I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing, if someone asks you that very vague question, I don't know.
Okay.
The next step can be, you can actually ask somebody, what would you like to do?
Okay, good.
What would make you happy?
Yeah.
Again, that's actually giving responsibility to them. Chances are they're gonna suggest something that's gonna be great for you, cooking, cleaning, going for a walk, taking you to a doctor's appointment, something like that. If somebody asks me that, now I'm kind of in this place in my life where I can sit here and think, what would I like to do for them?
Yes.
It actually would make me feel really good if I could offer to take them to their doctor's appointment. That'd be really fun. If one of my friends said, hey, I know you can't drive right now. Do you want me to take you to the store? I'd be like, that would be so much fun. That would be great.
Yes.
I would love it. So maybe that's what I'll ask my reflexology person. Hey, can we go for ice cream? Can I send you in to get me something? Like that would be fun. Kari also talked about yesterday, she was talking about she was a list maker. And so she had made this very, very detailed lists about how people can help her. And so if that works for you, then I fully encourage you, if somebody says, what can I do for you? You can just come back with them. Well, I've got these 3 things. Pick one. Pick one. And hopefully, they'll be like, oh, that would be great. That would be wonderful. I would love to do this for you. Now the way, I think you and I talked a little bit earlier about, like, sometimes kind of toxic people can come in and try to help us, right? Because we do have that in our lives. And some people do have people in their lives where an offer to help isn't necessarily an offer to help. It's an offer for them to feel good about something. Do you know what I mean with that?
Yes.
I mean, I'm
Yes,
lucky I don't have any of those people in my life right now, but maybe for them they feel some obligation to help you because of whatever relationship they have with you, with a mother-in-law or a sibling or something like that. They may feel an obligation. So then a conversation with them is a little bit different. If you've got someone that isn't truly coming to you from a place of generosity. So what kind of conversation do you have with that type of person? Again, trying to keep that balance of taking care of yourself,
Mhm.
and sometimes that taking care of yourself is being able to, or is telling someone, you know what, and it depends on how brave you're feeling. But I mean, you could tell someone, you know what, thank you, I don't need your help right now.
Mhm.
A more politically correct way could be, um, thank you, I've got it covered. you
Yeah,
know if
right.
you need to say something like that. Now, the work I do with people, I'm always going to encourage people to say what's true for them.
Mhm.
And knowing that sometimes these places in your life, where you're dealing with an illness or you're dealing with an injury, you just may not have the resources to bring all of that up. And that's okay. So maybe your phrase is, thank you, I've got it covered. Thank you. I have so much support right now that
Yes.
I'm feeling really well held. I appreciate your thought.
Mhm.
Just like give them kind of what they want, which is they
Yeah.
want to feel important. They want to feel like they tried. Just give it to them and move on. Let them, again,
Mhm.
you don't have, the important part is not to take on any responsibility for other people's emotions around wanting to help you.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
where things get really sticky in these situations. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we can work ourselves into a twist about whether we're gonna hurt somebody about this thing where we're already in a situation of hurting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, um, I I keep referring back to Carrie's talk, but it was just so good. Her conversation was so good. She was talking about um she had this moment where she started taking on, she felt like she was taking on everyone else's reactions to her diagnosis.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so this is kind of the same thing, when someone vaguely offers you help, really what you're doing is like you're taking on their responsibility. And so I
Mhm.
really encourage people, like, first off, just just don't don't take it. Like, don't take it. It is not your responsibility in that moment. Like,
Mhm.
really let it go. um yeah, do you have any questions about that so far? Any, like, how does that sound to you? You having been through this
Right.
part of your life, what
Yeah.
what was it like for you to ask for help? Was it difficult? Was it easy?
It was difficult. I guess part of it was I knew I needed help.
Mhm.
Um, and but I wasn't sure, what was the right thing to ask for. And
Mm,
um
mm.
and it really could be kind of almost anything, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, and and what ended up that people did frequently, um, there were rides to and from treatment. Um, there were rides to the grocery store, like you were talking about, when I was feeling pretty good, but not enough to do it all alone.
yeah,
Um, Picking up my son from school. Um, Sometimes sometimes it was more just that something got done so that it wasn't all on me and my family. And sometimes it was like the logistical parts of things. Like
yeah,
if I had to worry about getting back from chemo in time for school to be out, I don't, especially at the beginning, I didn't know what chemo was going to be like.
right,
You know, would I be back?
right.
Uh, and now we need two rides, or do we, or don't we? And just taking some of the responsibility off of having to try to figure it all out, um, by, like you were saying, people offering, well, I could this or I could that. Um, and and then being willing to say, kind of like you were suggesting, um, oh, okay, well, if you would be willing to go by the grocery store, would you also be willing to go by the pharmacy? And
Mhm.
being willing to kind of do a little bit of
Mm.
directing. Um, so not just saying sure to whatever a person would say, in case, maybe like you were talking about a minute ago, that it might be a little toxic, or maybe it's just, I already have 10 things of salad dressing in the fridge. Please don't bring any more.
Right. Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
um
So it's really interesting. One thing that I have learned about I call desire. I mean, desire me being very broad. What do we want? What do we need? Is
mhm.
that the more specific we get about what we need, the more specific that we get about our ask, the
Mhm.
more willing someone is to do it.
Oh, okay.
Most often, because again, it takes that mental strain away from them around, am I doing it right? Is this what she actually wants? Is this the thing that is most helpful? You know, could I be doing something different? But if you say to someone, see, I do this exercise sometimes in my groups that I do, um, where we talk about, all right, we pair off and someone's going to make a cup of tea for the other person. Someone's going to
Mhm.
ask for a cup of tea. And I say, okay, you're going to ask for a cup of tea and you're going to ask as specifically as you can.
Mhm.
So usually people go, okay, can you make me a cup of black tea? They think that's specific. Okay.
Okay.
So the other person B goes and makes them a cup of black tea and they bring it back and they're like, I hope you like it. And the person drinks the black tea and they're kind of like, ooh, actually, usually I have sugar in it and I have a little bit of cream. And I actually like Earl Grey, not English breakfast.
uh
And so the other person, so then person B is like, oh, I did it wrong. I did it wrong.
oh.
And then they're less willing
Mhm.
to say something, even though, impersonating is not admonishing them or anything. They're just like, oh, what I actually wanted was this. But if in the beginning, what you say is, would you make me a cup of tea? I would really like English breakfast. I'd like it brewed for 2 minutes and then take out the tea bag and then add a teaspoon of sugar and a tablespoon of cream. And if you could let it sit for 3 minutes to cool down and then bring it to me, that would be perfect. Person B will light up and be
Uh-huh.
like, I absolutely can do that. I may need you to write it down for me, but I absolutely can do that. That would be
Mhm.
wonderful. And they're going to feel so good bringing it to you. They're going to feel so good, doing that thing and seeing your expression. And this is the same thing when we ask people, so I say, yeah, thank you for going to the grocery store for me. Yes, could you please also stop by, could you take my car and fill it up with gas for me on the way? Here's $40.
Uh-huh.
Someone's going to be like, you know what? Actually, I can do that. That would be
Mhm.
really wonderful. I would love that bonus. Like, I think like we want to give give each other things. We want to serve each other. And so
Mhm.
when you ask someone to serve you, the more specific, the better.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Hmm.
this is where I loved Carrie's thing. She was like, I made lists. I made
Yeah.
lists of exactly what I wanted to have happen here, here, and here. I made flow charts. Like I love that. She made
Yes.
flow charts for how she wanted um, people to take care of her loved ones.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing that I really, really loved was that she said, I got really choosy. Like this isn't her word, but she says, I got really choosy about who was going to take care of me and my loved ones.
Mhm.
So coming back to that, like the kind of toxic people, she just didn't let them do it.
Yeah.
She just,
Yeah.
and so I think it's really important in these times, if you can, you know,
Mhm.
you ask the people that you trust. Don't
Yes.
ask the
Yes.
people that are going to cause you more pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can even be, a person who means well, but just is so out of sync. Maybe they're going to be like so worried and solicitous and whatever
Right.
that's beyond your comfort zone. Um, so I love the phrase you gave us a little bit ago about just saying, thank you, I've got that covered.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have something, I mean, so again, like if you have the capacity to be like, okay, a little thing that would be helpful today that this person could do that I can give to them
Mhm.
without it being a big deal to me, and I don't have to take on all of their stuff, do it. But if
Yeah.
it's not, give yourself that protection so
Yes.
that you can actually expand into the people that you do trust.
Hmm.
Again,
Hmm.
I think you were talking the other day too about, guardrails. This is almost
Yeah.
like guardrails. We want to put up guardrails for the people that we trust so that we can
Hmm.
expand within that. And if
Hmm.
there's people that don't fit inside of that place, then just don't.
Yes.
Just don't.
Yeah.
And I know that's really easy for me to say, but
Yep.
but but I think it's such a good habit, such a good practice.
Yeah. I want to tell you a little story and have you help us generalize it.
Okay.
Um, so our neighbor has a brand new baby.
Hmm.
And because we live in Napa and it's harvest time, her husband is, um, in the fields, even though he's, more of a management type person at other times of year. And, it's completely unpredictable when or if he will come home. And, um, and she's not, I'm sure if she really had to go to the grocery store, she could. But because I know what it's like to try to wrestle everybody up and go to the grocery store when all you really need is a silly gallon of milk,
Right.
and that could just wait till tomorrow. I said to her, hey, I know it's harvest time. Tell me what I can do. Tell me when I can go to the store for you or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And her response to me, and this is the part that I think is, potentially could be generalized. Her response was, well, tell me when you're going to go to the store, and then I'll give you what's on my list at that time. Um, and so I did that. and and it was pretty great.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and
That's so perfect. Well
yes.
done, her. Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
then I wasn't sure, what do we do next?
Mhm.
Do I bring it over? It's milk. I don't want to leave it to get warm. Um, and so she handled that too and just said, okay, we're going to be home starting at blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And, you know, so I knew what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So I would say, bravo for her. It
Mhm.
sounds like she had the capacity to handle that, and
Yeah.
that's amazing. Like, great. I think that that is so wonderful. If somebody has the capacity to do that, then she still has control over it, which is good. For
Mhm.
someone that's in a state where, you don't have control over certain parts, you don't even know if you're gonna live. Like, there's this overwhelming sense of loss of control.
Yeah.
Anything that you can kind of have some control over is important to a lot of people. So I would,
Yes.
yay for her. That sounds wonderful. Now, without having talked to her, maybe if I talk
Yeah.
to her, she might have a completely different experience of this interaction. Her
Hmm.
experience could be, and I had to do all the work for her about, telling her when and where and what, da, 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 that could be her response. If it
Hmm.
was, we'd be having a different conversation. But
Hmm.
hearing, what I hear from your telling of this is she did exactly that. She was like, this is what I need. This is how you can do it. Please go do it.
Right.
You know, and you did. And that's wonderful. Um, on the flip side, and I'm not sure if this is what you're asking for, but if she didn't know what she needed,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, she'd say, yeah, I'm just too overwhelmed. You could say, hey, I'm going to the store tomorrow. Do you have a list of things? Is there anything you need me to pick up for you?
Mhm.
How are you on milk? I mean, you can even get really specific because, again, sometimes, you might be asking these questions. You start more general of, I'm going to the store tomorrow. Do you need anything? She might be like, I don't know. I don't even have time to look in my fridge. I can't tell you.
Right.
You'd say, okay, um, then you can get more specific. Would you like me to pick up some milk? You know,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
would you like me to pick up some Oreos for you? You know, and again, like, you can kind of play with it a little bit too. Again, I don't know her personality. I like
Yeah.
to play with things like that. Like,
Mhm.
you like me to get you some bubbles, or just to kind of knock people out of that overwhelmed feeling. But
Sure.
you can also offer specific things so that,
Okay.
you know, then that gets that person, again, like I said, just kind of knocks them out of that overwhelm, where they can be like, okay, I can't think of everything that I need, but do I need milk? That's a good question. I can
Yeah.
think about whether or not I need milk.
Hmm.
You know?
Hmm. Do
So
you know what's for dinner tonight, or would you like me to
yeah,
just bring?
exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that's what you were asking about, but it sounds like, for on her end, that sounds, she's doing very well, very well, because
Yeah.
it made it easy for you to know exactly
Yes.
what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good that on both sides we can make it easy and be specific.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
mhm.
Sorry, I have a fly
Yeah.
bugging me. Yeah. Just trying to think if there's anything else. Um, you
So,
know,
what
yeah.
about a conversation with someone who, um, isn't that uh, toxic person, isn't the person who you're quite comfortable enough to just say, I can't deal with this today, but please call me tomorrow.
Mm,
If you don't feel like you know them quite well enough for
mm,
that, um, I'm not sure if I'm asking for conversation advice or if I'm asking for how can I be okay with myself in my own self in that situation and then not feel bad when I talk to them next week and say, yes, now actually I want blah, blah, or whatever, whatever might happen in next week's conversation.
Yeah. They're different things and they're the same thing, I like to say. Because I mean, I think every conversation starts with, where am I in this? Where am
Okay.
I and what am I responsible for in this conversation?
Okay.
Right. So, the first thing I would say is you are responsible for your feelings. You are responsible for the words that come out of your mouth. And that's
Mhm.
it. Like, you are not
Okay.
responsible for how someone feels about those words. And
Okay.
that's a really hard thing to unlearn. We
Yeah.
learned that one really early.
Yeah.
We learned that one really early. Um, you know,
Yeah. We
being
really want other people to be happy.
Say nice things. Don't hurt people's feelings. When you
Mhm.
do, apologize whether you mean it or not. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
we learn all of these really, I call them, we learn ways to actually disconnect from people under the guise of being nice because we're faking it. We're faking
Okay.
it. And so then what we don't learn is how to be with our feelings if someone says something that's hurtful. We don't learn how to um, be honest and say something that might hurt someone's feelings because they don't know how to deal with their feelings. Yeah, I mean, and again, like we learned this from our parents.
Yeah.
It's like,
Probably women
you
have
know,
too.
yeah, I mean, I learned from my parents. It was like, see this like I as a teenager even say, but I'll say even like as a young kid, you might say something to your mom, you're practicing something and you might say some, oh, you're stupid. I'm thinking like a 4-year-old, you're a stupid pants or something. Yeah, I mean something like really weird.
For your
Um,
Mhm.
but like my mom would probably have said something like, "Oh, that hurt my feelings."
Hmm.
And then what I learned from that is I'm not supposed to express myself because I'm supposed to take care of your feelings. We all learn
Oh,
this.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead, it could be, wow, I hear you're really upset. What you said hurt my feelings,
Mhm.
but let's talk about what's going on.
Mhm.
Instead, it was that hurt my feelings. You need to apologize to me.
Mm.
And
So let's talk about what's going on.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, I mean, that's like a round, like, so coming back to your question, like, what we need to reteach ourselves is that it's okay to have feelings and it's okay to express them. And it's okay if other people's feelings are hurt. And the solution to that is to stay true and honest and connected in the conversation.
Okay. How do I do that?
Well, yeah. So it's this dance that we have to do around, well, okay, this is what I'm feeling. This is my reality. This is what's going on for me versus what's your reality? What's going on for you? How can I hear you? Um, and again, like when we're talking about someone that is, in our lives, that we're not going to get rid of.
Mhm.
These are really important conversations if you want to stay connected with them. It may not be appropriate in a time of, sudden
Right.
illness or long-term illness or things like that. You really have to decide, do I want to put my energy into making this relationship different, and
Mhm.
finding the right relationship here? Or do I want to put my energy right now into protecting what I need to protect right now and taking care of my needs?
Mhm.
Um, Neither is the better one. Each person has to decide. Um,
Okay.
and sometimes, we have to be selfish. We have to take care of ourselves sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's right to be like, all right, I'm ready to change this conversation. I'm ready to change this relationship because, I need this to be different. Sometimes that is
Mhm.
taking care of ourselves, you know. But again,
Right.
you can't force someone to do that.
Sure.
But then
Sure.
that's where I come in. I'm gonna have to say, it's like, so if you want to have those kinds of conversations, it is good to have a third party. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't even have to, it doesn't have to be a coach. It can be just a third sort of neutral party that can help you navigate that conversation, that can
Mhm.
help you slow down, that can help you, use some reflective listening. If you don't know about reflective listening, I've got some free resources on it. Um, in the free thing that I'm going to give everybody, it's a series that I did, and the very first one is all about reflective listening, which is my number one tool that I give to people.
Mhm.
And it will change a conversation if you use this tool. And so that is what I would say, get the other person on board with changing the conversation.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Ask them and be honest. Just say, you know what, this is a really tough time for me. What I need from you right now is to have a different conversation. I don't need you to go to the grocery store. I don't need you to, drive me anywhere. I need you to have a different conversation with me
Mhm.
because it's important.
Yeah.
Again, ask for it. You just ask for it. The worst they can say is no. And then be like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Now I know. And I
Mhm.
need to go
Right.
do something else now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So knowing what's going on for ourselves
Yeah.
and what we are able to express needing at the moment, sometimes we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Um, and then being truthful
Hmm.
and, you
Hmm.
know, trying not to be mean about being truthful
Hmm.
and just picking our timing about whether what works for us now versus
Yeah.
not right now.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're really important to me, but right now I just can't think about anything else. So I need to not have this
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to add to if you don't know what you want, if someone offers to help and you don't know what you want, another thing you can say is, what would you like to do? Like,
Yes.
what would you like to do? Like, just tell me something,
Right.
give me some options, and let them, again, it's coming back to that place of overwhelm with some options so that you
Hmm.
can focus. Ask them to focus you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So responding back and forth with specifics.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Super helpful. Okay. So I feel like There's so much that we've talked about that's super useful, but it might be a little bit more than a person could take on all at once. And you mentioned you have a free gift.
I do.
So,
Um,
yeah. So I
what,
imagine that that is a good place to start.
yeah,
Um,
this, like I said, this is a lecture series that I did. Um,
mhm,
and so it's just up on YouTube. It's four different things. One of them is reflective listening. The second one is asking for what you want, a little bit going a little bit differently into why we don't, what makes it difficult, what can we do differently to do that. The third one I think was love languages. Maybe that was the fourth one. And I can't
mhm.
remember what the third one was. Um, I can't remember, but it's in there. Um, so
All
you're
super
welcome to look.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, just again, some of the tools I use with my clients. These are some of the first things that I teach them because they're really nice things to fall back on when
Yeah.
when the conversations get heated and emotional. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, particularly the reflective listening, because it just slows both people down to like,
Mhm.
okay, we're gonna we're gonna slow down and we're actually gonna hear each other here rather
Yes.
than getting caught up in all of our emotion um and thoughts from the past,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So for those of you who are with us live, the link is there in the chat. And for those who come listen to the recording later, the link will be on the schedule page of the summit. Each of the speakers has a couple of buttons by their section, and one of them says something like, get the gift here, and it will go straight to this link. And then the other is to watch the recording. Obviously, it takes a little bit afterwards for everything to get organized and compiled, and for me to put all the tech links together. I like tech, but it turns out I'm not an octopus, so not not all the things happen at the same moment. um, and those recordings will be up through midnight Pacific time on Monday. And if it so happens, oh, Kari Lynn, we forgot to put, oh, did we put your contact info up?
Oh,
Let's do
I can
that.
put it up. I can do
Yeah.
that.
So Kari Lynn is serving multiple roles today in addition to helping us with having productive conversations, especially when we're under stress. She is also our Zoom director, making all of the behind the scenes things happen. So, person of many talents, and happy to work with you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Julie-ann.